you have, Detective?
Nothing of any importance, I'm very sorry to say. We're still trying to locate witnesses and waiting on a few leads to gel. Of course, we're putting as much effort as possible into locating the children.
Who's out there doing, actually chasing after this guy?
Well, we got our sheriff and the sheriff from 4 neighboring counties. We got a slew of state troopers and town police officers. And we got alerts and bulletins out throughout the state and as far north as Virginia. Media coverage has been extensive. Children's Photograph has aired on all the major networks across the country. And as of this afternoon, we have 2 agents in Quantico working on psychological profiles and things like that. They're really assisting the 2 agents who are already here. You met Agents Walters and Driggers, didn't you, Mrs. Vaughn?
We both met him at the station, sir.
Well, in addition to law enforcement, we've got quite a few town folk who turned out to help with the search efforts. We got them out there on foot, in cars, and in choppers. They're combing the areas near the woods nearby, and they're also combing a pretty wide area that cuts across the state line to the north and to the south. I have to say that the community's really turned out and helping finding your children.
We thank God for that.
Detective Purvis, please sit down.
Well, thank you, ma'am. You're very kind.
Oh. Offer you some coffee or anything else to drink? Iced tea, maybe?
Much obliged, ma'am, but thanks just the same. I just had supper, you know. Need a little time to make room for a beverage.
What can we do for you, Detective Purvis?
Well, thank you for asking, sir. You see, I've been going over my notes and talking to other agents, people who know more about this kind of thing, and, well, there's still some details I'm stuck on, things I don't have clear in my mind.
We've gone over everything several times. I don't think we know anything we haven't told you already.
Yes, we have gone over a great deal, and yet, even with all the information that we've gathered, all the details you volunteered, and all the witnesses we've interviewed, do you believe there's still things I need to go over with you? We still have some doubts.
Doubts? About me? About what I've told you? About what?
I apologize, ma'am. Maybe doubts is the wrong word. Let's just say we don't have a complete scenario, and we're hoping maybe you can fill in the gaps.
Anything we can do for our boys, Detective. Nothing is too much if it'll help you find them.
Well, now rest assured, that's our only objective also. I know how desperate you are, and not just you, Mr. Vaughn, the whole family, especially Mrs. Vaughn. You know, cases like these always affect the mother the most. Maternal sensitivity, I call it. Wouldn't you agree, Mrs. Vaughn?
Well, I most absolutely agree, sir. No other wound could compare.
Yes, ma'am, that's right, and that's why I have to apologize, Mrs. Vaughn.
Why? You're just doing your job and helping us.
Yes, ma'am, but you see, most of my confusion has to do with what you've already told us.
What do you mean by that?
Please, again, sir, I apologize. It's just, we got so many details. I mean, more details than we're really used to dealing with, and so you've probably been very clear. It's just, you know, my mind's not picking up on things the way it should.
Had to get on with your work then.
Experience, sir. A lot of it.
Let's get to the point.
Very good, sir. Well, Mrs. Vaughn, I think, let me see, but I think most of my questions have to do with you.
Me?
Yes, well, you're the only witness we have to everything that's occurred.
But you have testimony from the other people who saw me before the kids disappeared, and from those who saw me after, and I...
Yes, that's right, and we'll get to all of that. But I'd like to take things in the order that I'm confused about them, if you don't mind. Now, let's see, according to my notes, that night you were out driving around with the children.
That's right.
Headed anywhere in particular?
No, sir. The babies were fussing, you know, kind of restless.
was singing. Where did I get that idea?
That may have been earlier. Oh, yes, he was. But the youngest was fussing, and pretty soon they were both cranky. Nothing serious, just asking for blankets, for milk, claiming they were hungry.
Sleepy, maybe.
When they got like that, they just cry instead of going to sleep.
And what do you do then to get them to quiet down?
Tried to distract them. I told them a story, and I told them that their daddy was coming home and he would want to find them asleep.
But that night, you did different.
I told them that I'd take them to the mall and get a toy. If they quiet down, they liked going there.
Huh. But you really didn't make it there after all.
It was getting late. As I've said, the other times I've answered these same questions.
Yes, ma'am. But we still have to go over them again. Now, just to make sure I've got everything down, can you tell me what happened at the moment the abductor got in the car?
She's so upset. Sir, is this really necessary?
Sadly, yes.
I didn't notice him until he actually opened the car door.
Do you think he had chased after you?
I don't know. I don't think so. I was waiting for the light to turn green on Hampton Street when
Hampton?
Yes, sir.
But you said that no other car was coming when you were at the light.
No. No other cars. I guess then we'd have witnesses.
But if the light was red on your side, I don't get it. You see, this is one of those questions I had. That red light on Hampton only comes on if traffic is coming from the crossing street. A signal trips it to change. Are you sure no other car was coming?
Yes, sir.
Oh! Wasn't on Hampton. I was on Sumter. I don't know how I got that confused before. Oh, who could blame me with all the commotion?
Well, that's right, honey. Anybody could have made that mistake. You know, Detective, the two streets are so close.
Yes. So, then what happened?
This black man, you know, the one I described for the police composite, just jumped into the car out of nowhere.
Which side did he jump into?
The passenger side.
With the gun.
What gun? I never said nothing about no gun.
Why are you tripping her? She never done mention no gun.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't know what I was thinking. Yes, I have it right here. No gun. He just jumped into the car and ordered you to keep driving. That accurate?
Yes, sir. I tried to talk to him, you know, to try to bring him to his senses. Just told me to shut up and keep going.
Until you got to the leg road.
There he told me to stop and get out of the car. I told him to let me have the babies, but he just...
The babies were crying by then.
Yeah, they've been screaming since he got in the car.
So you wanted to get them out.
Yes. But he told me not to bother. Begged him to let me have the babies, but he said he didn't have time, that he had to drive off fast.
Screaming babies.
That's right. He yelled at me that the kids would be okay and not to worry about them. I tried to see where he was going, but he just sped off. Got lost in the dark road.
Do you think how stupid that was of him? I mean, a black man in a car, two white children strapped into the back seat, crying, screaming, obviously upset.
No, I didn't think about it. But right then and there, I only thought about my babies. My babies that a stranger took away.
Please, Mrs. Vaughn, please try to calm down. I know this isn't very easy, but we'll get through it as quickly as we can. Now, some of the things you clarified for me here are going to help us narrow our search for your babies. You've been very helpful. Now, let's see. He probably wasn't after money, or what do you think?
How could anyone know?
I don't have any information here about your purse. I assume you were carrying one. And he took it?
No, sir. I took it with me. I kept it right beside me while I was driving.
And he didn't make any attempt to take it from you?
No. Maybe when he pushed me out. I don't know. Well, maybe he didn't think about it.
Mr. Vaughn, does this make sense to you?
Nothing makes any sense to me about any of this.
In Mrs. Vaughn's account, I mean.
I have no explanation. And I sure don't have any questions about what happened.
I'm not asking you whether you believe her or not. I'm asking for your own explanation for what...
I believe Medea completely. If something doesn't add up, it's because she was so confused when it all happened. I put myself in her place. I don't know what I could have done different than what she done.
I understand. Well, I believe the rest of my interview only requires Mrs. Vaughn. I need to talk to Mrs. Vaughn in private.
What else could she have to tell you that she ain't told you already?
That's what I have to determine, ma'am.
You keep beating around the bush about something. Why don't you come out and say whatever it is you haven't said?
Please, Mr. Vaughn, this is all pretty standard in an investigation of this nature. Now, by talking to her here, I'm saving valuable time. Now, if I can't talk to her privately here, she'll have to come down to the station with me. And then that circus out there is going to follow us. And who knows what will happen next.
Okay, go ahead. We won't get in your way. Come on, Jaspers. If you need anything, we'll be in the family room.